Welcome everybody to the December 12th Milwaukee Mental Health Task Force meeting. And I'm Mary Neubauer, one of the co-chairs. And I'd like to introduce Chris Nampo, my other co-chair, and she's going to go over the ground rules.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming in person and online. We're so lucky to have Judge Ashley and Dr. Knox today. But before we start the presentations, a few ground rules for the hybrid meeting. Microphone's not on.
But you sound great.
Anything else? Okay, hopefully this works. Okay, thank you. Zoom participants, please share any questions or tech issues in the chat. We'll monitor the chat and do our best to be responsive. Please remain muted to minimize background noise for others. Auto captioning is provided. You may turn captioning on or off. Click on the caret symbol next to the CC Live transcript button if you want to hide subtitles or to view the full transcript. At the top of your video screen, you can choose between speaker view or gallery view, whichever you prefer. To all participants, we hope to have time after each speaker for a few questions. Virtual participants, use the chat feature to type your questions. In-person participants, please raise your hand. We will answer as many as we can. We will try to first ask the questions from virtual. Sign language interpreters are provided at most meetings. Please let us know if you need any assistance. And
All meeting materials are posted on our website at the link indicated on materials if you're here in the room. Otherwise, go to the Milwaukee Mental Health Task Force website. And I'd like to introduce Sue Gaddich, who will introduce Judge Ashley today. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Chief Judge Carl Ashley. His full bio is also on the Mental Health Task Force's website. I will not read all of it, but in keeping with our tradition of inviting the chief judges to present to this Mental Health Task Force, we are fortunate to have Carl with us today. Judge Carl Ashley was appointed as the Chief Judge of the First Judicial District in April of 2023 by the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. He is the chair of the Milwaukee Community Justice Council, which is a council that is consistently addressing mental health and substance use disorder issues. He's a distinguished member of the Evidence-Based Sentencing Judicial Peer Group for the National Center of State Courts. He is also a faculty member of the Wisconsin Judicial College, and he is the chair of the Wisconsin Association of Treatment Court Professionals Subcommittee on Equity and Inclusion. Chief Judge is with us today to be able to share his vision for mental health and substance use disorder services for judicial participants in the county of Milwaukee, and also the programming that he is working on to address mental health and substance use disorders within the courts and also within the jails. So without further ado, would you all please join me in welcoming Chief Judge Carl Ashley.
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate it. And thank you for the invitation. I have to tell you that I am very gratified with the opportunity to be here and to be involved with this organization. And I took a look at the website. And by the way, Ms. Neubauer and Dr. Apple, thank you for your leadership. That's extraordinarily important. You have a lot on your plate and that you're still willing to come to bat for us. So thank you so much. I looked at the Milwaukee Mental Health Task Force overview. And it says the Milwaukee Mental Health Task Force is committed to being a leader in identifying issues faced by all people affected by mental illness, facilitating improvement in mental health services, giving consumers and families a strong voice, reducing stigma, and implementing recovery principles. Dear to my heart, that message for all of us about what we can do for mental health. And although the Community Justice Council is a lot more than just mental health, that's an extraordinarily important. I think all of us realize that as a society, as a community, we don't address mental health in a way that is really effective for the people who have the issues, their families, and our community. And people fall through the cracks between the criminal justice system and how we deal with mental health, and those in the civil system and how we deal with mental health. And it's so unfortunate because there's so many people in this room who've been involved with this effort for so many years, decades, longer, trying to figure out how do we have better outcomes for people caught up in this horrible cycle that seems never ending without any real meaningful changes in what they have to deal with. And so as the chair of the Community Justice Council, and that's my mission today, talk a little bit about that. I first want to just acknowledge, most of you know, if you're not aware, that Manny Potapako, our executive director, is now working for the NIC, National Institute for Corrections. Although I'm happy for the NIC, I'm saddened by the Community Justice Council and losing her wonderful support and leadership over all these years. And I know those folks who've been involved in the organization for a very long time know how instrumental she was in communicating with people, organizing things. And I have Tom Reed, the vice chair, who's one of the founders of the Community Justice Council, along with John Chisholm, have been around a long time and saw a lot of things happen. My mission for us today is to realize I'm not the Community Justice Council, it's a collaboration. And the fact of the matter is we not only collaborate with our membership, the executive committee, and the community at large, but with people in this room as well. And I start liking to name people in the room, but I'll miss somebody. But it's very significant to me that there's a lot of familiar faces in this room who have been dedicated to trying to do something different for people with mental health issues. And we're going to keep working. I've been a judge for 24 years, coming on 25 years. And my predecessor, Mary Trajano, my good friend, who was the chief judge and the chair of the Community Justice Council, was a leader. Again, regrettably, she left us, and she's over at the Marquette Law School at the Andrews Center for Restorative Justice. And she is doing marvelous things, as all of us would expect. And she will continue to do that in a different form, but related to what we do. So let's me get a little bit more about the Community Justice Council and how I envision it. Again, it's not my show. And by that, I'm going to tell you what the mission is. The mission, as noted in our bylaws, the Milwaukee Community Justice Council worked collaboratively to ensure a fair, efficient, and effective justice system that enhances public safety and the quality of life in our community. And the vision, a justice system that is a national model in a timely and fair administration of justice by the wise use of resources and is built on a commitment to develop and use best practices. And right now, with changes going on, we're going to replace Mandy, and replace is not the proper word. We're going to bring somebody else in to be the executive director. We're in that process right now. But we're also in the framework of trying to establish another strategic planning event. because a lot of things have happened. Since the last time we had the strategic planning event, significant changes have occurred in the criminal and legal system and our broader world. Most notably, the system continued to recover from the pandemic. Local partners are preparing for sunsetting of the MacArthur Foundation's Safety and Justice Challenge Initiative, which has served as a major focal point for stakeholders over the years. That investment in us in reducing jail population and looking at opportunities to do things differently. One of the questions asked of me was, well, what are we doing with the Community Justice Council to reduce the amount of people in jail? And fundamentally, it's a collaborative effort. And by that, I mean, we're looking at taking people from all system partners, getting together to figure out how we can reduce the jail population. And we've done that by, first of all, doing the assessment of people coming through when they come into the system, universal screening, which means when people come in, we immediately try to screen them for risk needs assessments and try to get them into a pathway that is best for them so that they can be successful. And John Chisholm and his office has looked at EI, alternatives to incarceration, effective justice strategies to try to see what we can do for folks who are involved in our system. Do they, first of all, like diversion? One of the things that's so integral is we don't even want them in the court system. We don't want a complaint file. Some people just need to be deferred out. And the research has taught us over and over again, bringing people into the system that are not appropriate, we're doing harm to them. And I have to tell you folks, as a baby judge, I had no idea about that. I had no idea. In fact, I remember as a baby judge, you know, I've been doing this a long time. When I had people who had limited exposure and I thought that they didn't really need to be in the system, I was throwing resources at them. I was like, let me give you this, let me give you that so that you won't be back in the system. And what did the research tell me? Judge, you got that all wrong. In fact, throwing sources at people who don't need them, you're doing them harm. And you're mixing them with people who shouldn't be in the system. And that was an epiphany for me and some of my colleagues to realize research is important. Evidence-based decision-making is important. So all of these things help drive us to say that we can use research, we can investments and trying to figure out better ways to have better results. And I want to focus a little bit on mental health because if anything drives me nuts, is how we deal with mental health. And that's what this group is about. So let me segue a little bit to mental health. I have to tell you, I know people have been working very hard on this issue for years, decades, particularly the Community Justice Council and the subcommittee, which Tom Reed chairs, the mental health subcommittee, trying to figure out how we can do things better. It's almost tragic, some of the consequences, because our system does not address it well. If you're in the criminal justice system and you come in, and I have to tell you about competency, people come in, low charges, misdemeanor charges, they come in. What do you do with that? And you say, whose fault is that? Well, let me back up and just give you an example. So I'm in treatment court. I had the luxury and privilege of being a treatment court judge, both in drug treatment and veterans treatment court. And what did that teach me? I know Pat's there and he's over the years worked with me in a number of circumstances and with the folks in Justice Point. And I have to tell you, when you work with someone for 12 to 18 months, you really can get to that question about what happened to you to cause you to be where you are. As judges, we don't often get that luxury of even delving into the depth of what happened to an individual. As a problem-solving judge, I got a chance to be with someone, with a team, to really dissect what's going on with someone. And I can't tell you how many visitors would come to my problem-solving court and go, wow, Judge, why don't we do this with everybody who comes through the system? And we would be much more effective in changing people's outcomes. And more importantly, not just for them, because it's families. And that's one of the things that was dear to my heart when I was in the problem-solving court. Now, I've been in all kinds of courts: homicide, sexual assault, misdemeanor, felony. Nothing was more gratifying to me than to have someone successfully complete treatment court. Because what it did was not only change that person's trajectory, but everybody else associated with them. To have a participant say to me, "Judge, you know what? It's been 25 years. And you know, people in my family ask me what I think." I was so gratified that someone would take the time after all these years to actually say, "We care what you think." And that's because they turned their life around. And in doing so, we changed not only that trajectory of that person, but that family. And to me, I'm a little long in the tooth. And so my effort in the few years I got left is to really push the envelope on what we can do to change how we process people through the system. And that's what the Community Justice Council is about. We've got the executive committee, we got leadership around this city, this county, who come to the table. We got new people. I'm new. But the idea is relationships matter. And nothing was more telling than COVID. Because when COVID came around, you really had to look at people and say, "Do you trust me? Is what you're telling you're going to do, is it because it's the right thing to do? Can I trust you?" And that's where relationships really matter. And so with the Community Justice Council, that's one of the foundational things, is that we as a group trust each other, commit to each other. And always, you know how it is when you get around and someone will say something to you and you look at them and you go, "I'm thinking the worst thing possible that you're coming up." You can look at the person and say, "I'm going to give you the advantage of the doubt that your motive or what you're telling me is coming from a good place." But how many times you sit in a room and someone opens their mouth and you already know, "Whatever you're saying, I ain't buying." That is not the recipe for collaboration. That is not the recipe for people opening up, taking a little risk to invest in things that they ordinarily wouldn't. And so we're going to start with strategic planning because we want to reinvest in the leadership. But we've also, and I think most of you know, during this process, getting ready for strategic planning, because we need to refocus, is to get community input. And what we've done is had listening sessions to try to get some input from the community to help empower how we make our decisions on what we want to do. That information is being digested and pulled together. Erin Perkins, who is she's just fantastic. And she has pulled that together. She'll be pulling that together for all of us to take a look and incorporate that in the strategic planning. Because we need to be better at what we do. And we need to be willing to take some risk. And we need to push the envelope. Now, I'm at the stage where not much can happen to me when I push things. And so it's my intention to push as hard as I can with the people who can help us make a difference. And I'm looking at the people in this room, a lot of them WCS, the people that have been there at the table with us so long to invest in us do better. Now, let's stop and go back a little bit about some specifics. How much time do I have? Do I have a clock on me? What's the time?
15 more minutes, I think.
Just tell me. Do I have
15 more minutes, Carl.
Okay, just so, thank you, Sue. The relationship between the criminal mental health processes and those in the civil arena. Perplexing, folks, and all of you know this. I'm sitting in one of the projects that we had through the Justice, Safety and Justice Challenge grant was post-booking stabilization. What was that all about? I had the luxury of being able to see that because it happened when I was in treatment court. And what was post-booking stabilization? That was when the DA's office, the defense attorney, would identify a client that would be handled not during the normal criminal processes, but they would come in with me, they'd get a case manager, there was housing provided, the resources were really invested in trying to address the issues of that person. I thought it was manna from him because it was an opportunity for us to look at an individual and try to figure out what that person needed to support them in the community. Not necessarily in the criminal justice system, but in the community. And what was so important? Housing. Look, we all know that's a fundamental. You gotta have ongoing, consistent housing available. Then you need the case management so that that person can have that support, because most of them are very, very high. I mean, I will tell you, it's a struggle, because if you talk to the district attorney's office, they don't want these folks in the criminal justice system. They don't want to prosecute these cases, particularly the misdemeanors. But here's the issue. In the community, that person is acting up. They're going to a restaurant. You're having dinner with your family or something, and the person comes in, they create a little disturbance. Having dinner, and then of course you can understand, so that's the balance. If you're sitting there with your family, you're having dinner, and someone going in and they're going a little off, you're like, call the police and get them out of here. One of the things that I'll go back to was the crisis assessment response team, CARD, which tried to inform officers about how to deal with people with mental health issues in a different way than the normal someone has no idea. That was good. But ultimately, we need to plow resources in for that family, for that person, so that they can be supported consistently. So that when there's a call, we've got the case manager, we've got intervention, and there's not a need for the police to come and cart them back to the jail where we don't want them to be, which is not an appropriate place for them to be. But we've got to have something in the middle to get it there, because people in the community, I mean, let's face it, I'll have to tell you, someone's acting up and I got my grandkids there. I don't have any yet, but aspirationally, I hope never some. If something's going on, I would not want them to be confronted with an inappropriate activities by someone who has mental health issues. And quite frankly, if I step back a little bit, I know we have a lot to do to get there. Should we be having on competency proceedings for people on low misdemeanor cases? Should we even have that? Some jurisdictions don't do it. They don't do it. Why? Because you only have a short period of time, right? And after they've, the max 90 days, 9 months, you're done. And they're back on the street. Did we resolve the problem? No. Do we need to figure another way to deal with those issues than just having them cycle through? And ladies and gentlemen, it's an expensive proposition to go through that process. And to do it multiple times. One of the things we've been talking about is the ability to look at those cases and examine them. We've got HIPAA issues. We've got privacy issues. How do we get that data? How do we track things when we're protecting people's rights? And I'll tell you, one of my judges, Judge Cynthia Davis, who's one of my treatment court judges, outstanding jurist, is now, guess where? And it was by no accident. She's in civil court doing probate, which are these kind of cases from the civil arena. What we're trying to do is learn as much as we can to figure out how can we intersect the criminal versus the criminal versus the civil. I think we can get there. It's going to take a lot of cooperation and support from everybody. But at the end of the day, we cannot keep doing what we're doing because it's not meaningfully changing these folks' life. And when people call law enforcement for help, that's not the recipe they're looking for. They're looking for something sustainable that's gonna help a loved one. And I think we can do more. Now, I have to tell you, it's fraught with problems. Because I talked to Corp Counsel, I've talked to people already, and Tom, you've been through this too. Okay, now we get into this thing about, well, are you gonna force people to take medication? Are you going to force people to be held in a hospital setting if they're not a danger to themselves or others? The statutes are different, folks. So how do we gauge if we don't put them in the criminal arena and you go to the civil? And Pete, you know, how do you force people to, I'm gonna make you take medication? Okay, in some circumstances you can, but they have to reach a certain level of a threat to themselves or others. What do we do with that gray area? We need to work on that because I believe that the society as a whole is tired of what we have been doing. It has not been effective. So in my role as the chair of the Community Justice Council is to rely on people like Tom, John Chisholm, county exec, the mayor, Willie Johnson, who's been on forever, and he's been so supportive of us, Shakita LeGrand McLean, Anna Hodges. There are so many people on that committee that we can sit down who are committed to trying to make a difference. And mental health is a huge factor. We have to take a better track to get better results than what we've been doing. And I will tell you this, I don't think there's a person on the committee who's not vested in trying to do something better than we have been. And I'm looking at the people in this room, you guys have been doing this for a long time. And quite frankly, I'm very interested in communication back from people in this room and others so that we can do the best. Because some of the stuff I'm talking about, a lot of you are going, been there, done that. What are you talking about? I've been talking about that for years and we haven't been able to get over the hump. But somebody in this room is going to help us figure out what are the ways we can do a workaround. And it may be legislation. It may be changing how we look at things. And my argument always is if you can make a cogent, reasoned argument that there's a better way to do this, where we balance someone's rights, and we won't lose track of that. People have constitutional rights. And as a judge, lawyer, and as people, we want people to make sure we don't trample all over your rights. We got to balance also the outcome because once people do get treatment, a lot of them are like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I feel better. And people feel better about me. So my message to you as I step away is this. I looked at some of the costs associated with some of the things we are doing, and this goes to children as well. The cost to send a child to Lincoln Hills or Copper Lake for a year, one child, is $450,000. One child, 1 year, almost $500,000. Okay, I know we can use that money in a different way. I don't know. Prison. Right now, to keep a male in prison for 1 year, one male is $44,000. And for a female, it's $53,000. Now, I'll be candid with you. As I said, I've been in some serious courts. And no disrespect to anyone, but sometimes people need to be taken out of the system for public safety reasons. And that's just real, folks. Just real. But 90% of the people in are getting out. So what are we doing? What are we doing? Are we creating a safer society by just warehousing someone? And I'm not trying to be a negative to DLC because they have their own issues that they have, limited resources and the like. But at the end of the day, I think as a community, the commitment is we folks can do better. So my last word to you is please reach out to me. Let me know if you have any suggestions for the Community Justice Council. We're doing our strategic planning hopefully in the next couple of months. And we're going to be looking at how do we prioritize what we want to do. So anything you can do to help us figure out better outcomes for our community, we're open and willing to hear and discuss. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Run the mic.
You have the first question?
Okay, so any
Questions for?
Pardon me, Mary.
Here.
Surprise, surprise. Hi,
Hello.
my name is Maria.
I'm Maria.
I'm a peer. I'm a Latina. I'm in the community.
All right.
I liked what you were saying about how to change the money and people know what I'm gonna say. We have, I would say, why don't we do an ecological approach? You know, and I think the issue is that, let me tell you what's the most vulnerable population in jail, in and out. It is young women of reproductive age. Why? Because they carry the next generations with them. And that's for sure. Either they are carrying their children with them, or they have children in foster care, or they have the probability, or they will have children at some point. And that's a good point to break the vicious cycle, is to help. And I gotta tell you, those 53,000 break my mind, because when a young woman ends in prison for, I'm sorry, I'm a teacher, so we use big words, for prostitution and addiction, and sometimes assault, you're looking at a woman that has victimized 3 times. They don't get into drugs if they are not introduced very young. They don't go into prostitution if they have a choice of go to college or get a good job. And those children, as teachers, we see them, you know, not sleeping, coming tired to school. And I'm not talking about bad person, I'm talking a very good person. And when I say ecological, is that it's not only good to give all the services. You have to put them in a good neighborhood. You have to make sure that they got good training so they don't end being cashier in some small place without money. Because if you can make it for one population that has so many needs plus other, you can make in some others. And I just want to give you a real life example. And the real example is this young woman lost her 2 kids. She lives on Hampton. To see their kids, she has to go to Greenfield, Washington. I was her peer, right? She won't get the kids until she gets a house. She doesn't get a house because she doesn't have a job. She doesn't have a job because she's a high school job. Well, she can get a job and do a GED while she's doing that, and we can make her get a house near with her kids' eye. Where she is living, I told my supervisor, I got just drunk by walking upstairs. Can she remain sober there? I don't know. Number one, the only grocery stores, there were these adorable kids, who I knew from something else, kids, no kills, who were doing, guess what? Selling marijuana to make money, to buy some other things. So that's what I mean on ecology, right? So we have to figure out that the transformation has to be in the community, because returning to the community with all these things that this young woman had against her, I don't care how many peer services and money you spend, she needs her kids back. She needs a possibility for education. She needs a good, decent, competitive salary job in an area where she will feel safe. And I think that should be the aspiration, not just to take them out, but where are we going to put it and start doing a triage, where our money should go, where we can have a better and major impact in terms of this ecological approach. And I have seen this, I don't know for how long. Okay.
Thank you for that point, because we don't have enough resources. I know Judge Carroll was out at Children's Court, and the judges out there struggle with the lack of resources for young women. and what can be done then. And by the way, I'm hoping no one's charging them for prostitution and because they're being trafficked or anything like that. I hope we're much better at that. I'm just hoping.
too, but it happens.
I got you.
Sorry. How much time do we have for questions? Maybe.
Eric?
What?
Judge Ashley, I've got one question for you.
Sure.
In 1986, I co-founded the Wisconsin Association for Children of Alcoholics. We know that Wisconsin has a major problem with alcohol. When is our court system going to address in the treatment courts and the other courts, the addiction issue around alcohol and the fact that we're dealing with the opiates and all of those sorts of things in the treatment courts, but we don't address the alcohol, which is the underlying issue of an addiction that never gets dealt with?
Well, first of all, there are a number of, to your point, there are a number of courts, treatment courts that deal with alcohol around the state. We don't have one directly related to that at this point. And I know there's also clamoring, rightfully so, that we expand our mental health court footprint as well. Right now, I have one judge, Judge Carolina Stark, who's in the drug treatment court here downtown. She is overwhelmed. So we are looking at ways to lighten her load so she can do more. And one, I mean, I have a meeting where people are pushing for more mental health court slots. And unless I can get her some, it's trying to be mindful that we only have certain bandwidth. And we want to build on that. I'm going to be asking, and this is no secret, I'm going to be asking for 2 new court commissioners, one in family court and one in judicial court commissioners next budget cycle. And I know we need to ask early, and that is to reduce the bandwidth to perhaps expand some of the problem solving courts. I believe that's problem solving courts, to me, are a wonderful vehicle to really help people and their families change their trajectory. Simply, we don't have the resource, we have limited judicial spots right now, but I want to build on that. So to your point, why don't we have an OWI court? Probably should have one.
I'm not talking about OWI, I'm talking about alcohol as a family addiction.
Well, that would be, oh, I see what you're saying. Well, that's interesting, because that is not as around the state, just addiction, alcohol as a problem solving court. It's usually OWI related. It's what you're saying, just have a court just for alcohol. Well, let's have that conversation, Mary. Let's go back. Like I said, I don't foreclose anything. If there's an option of providing more resources to help people be more successful, let's talk.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much, Judge Ashley. If you are gonna run for president, you have my vote for anything you prefer. There are a couple of other questions, and hopefully if we write those down, you could maybe answer those offline. Okay, thank you. I'd like to introduce, a few things that I can't replicate what the judge said, but you talked about resetting, shifting our focus, and, bringing some fresh new ideas into your strategic planning. We also want to undergo sort of a transformation in the Milwaukee Mental Health Task Force. And since the pandemic is over and we want to set our priorities anew, we're also going to be reaching out to everyone on the task force to say, what would you like? What's been going well? What would you like to see different? And doing our own reset. So without further ado, we're going to, our newest, most energetic member of the task force, Montreal, please come up and introduce our next activity.
Yeah, you feel the energy. So for you folks online, you're missing out on great Christmas cookies, right? Good music, good laughter. I think one of the things that I find most exciting is that we understand the change is needed while not forgetting our roots. We understand where we came from, but we also know where we're headed. And so we're going to do a nice breakout session. So what this means is you guys get to stretch your limbs. I'm not going to have you rotate your neck or anything like that, right? But we have 3 rooms. Just to your right, We have a middle room. In the furthest room over, we're gonna call that our C room. Everybody say C. Don't get lost. In C room. We're gonna go all the way over. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna use these pieces of paper on the wall and we're just gonna hear from you. We're gonna ask you real questions with real actionable items. So we're gonna talk to you about what's going well, what you want to see different. Shout out to the patriarch and visionary Barbara Becker. Her question wasn't asked, but all she asked was, how can the task force support? How can we as a task force support you to making sure that the resources get to the community for the suggestions that we're given? And so you guys have an opportunity right now. It's about a 45-minute little workout exercise to help us reimagine what does the future look like for the mental health task force. So who's excited about that? Okay. See, you didn't smile. You didn't get a cookie. We got some cookies back there, man. All right. And we're also going to do a toast a little bit later on and honor some of the pillars that have helped set up this mental health task force. So you guys can take 5 minutes, do a little bit of networking. I want to see about half of you guys over in room C, if that's okay. All right. We got about 30 people online. And as a task force, we need your support. Help us get the word out. Share the information on your social media pages, share it in your company newsletters, and feel free to invite a friend next time because it only gets better from here. Is that all right? Yeah. All right. Enjoy the music. Out session.
So. I think it's just C.
If you folks want to go over to C, and it would be about 30 minutes, you can leave your stuff here and then have me come back here. Folks online are going to be participating as well.
That's why but someday we'll strike the tide. Someday we'll see light. What have we done? But someday it's the sky. It all.
Yeah, what about you? What are you?
How are you?
Well, how are you?
You look better than the last time I saw you on video.
Oh, hours off.
Miss you. Miss you. Retiring?
Oh, wait, no.
I thought you.
They graduate.
I'm to a new.
I knew that.
I'm staying on the.
Good. Needed.
You, Ira?
I'd be happy to help.
Oh, absolutely.
And just somehow.
Didn't know who I was picking for my physical because nobody, the way they do it now is,
Yeah.
I had GT.
I mean, we have a ton about verbs too.
That was, it took them 60 days.
Interested in.
Wait, maybe that's not like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. See.
Yeah, an employee,
The adults, I would say the main thing would be if somebody needed support.
and they're still not
with
active.
Something they're going through with their kid, then trying to get them to the right. path. If you show up,
Now, I thought the employee was.
Well, we just have,
They were active.
our.
Yeah, I don't need no cookies.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, that makes a difference. That'll make.
I requested.
Our aging department is.
As far as I wish I could see it to me.
You prefer that.
I have
That was all.
allergies, so I probably even shouldn't be eating this. I take it as cookies.
How you doing?
I feel like that could be-
Oh, look at that.
You can actually,
Here.
but it is like a huge. It was just not versus for.
Tree trails are up.
Music. Yeah. It's criminal justice. They did definitely-
Yeah, right. And eventually, you know, they age.
And she said, well.
Get really close to that barrier.
The.
Wake up.
Yeah, and
She get a new team member on.
Probably.
my life personally after that.
Said she could drive.
And
I asked you, who would call.
with like what sentence,
I said,
get out. Yeah,
Should have-
things that happen. Somehow, but.
Sometimes
Yeah.
ask for that.
Right, right. And really that is like.
Thanks a lot.
Great speaker.
yeah, but, I mean, it was a set.
Oh, yeah, some of you guys are like 40 something, 50 something. Yeah, being in for like
And then nothing.
30 years.
It's like a whole new world.
It really is.
Yeah.
Like some people get out and cell phones. are a legitimate thing.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thing.
thank you guys so much for joining us. We do have another amazing speaker, Dr. Lia Knox, who's going to be helping us with coping for the holidays. But right now, we want to bring you guys in so we can get through our steering committee facilitation and breakout. So we have a couple of questions we'll go through. Dr. Christine Apple will be the facilitator in this space. We'll be taking notes. And as soon as we're done in both rooms, we're going to do a report out. We're going to talk about reimagining what the future can look like. Right after that, we're being blessed with Dr. Lia Knox. So stay tuned, get your cookies. We want you guys to just bring it in for us. All right? Thank you so much, Dr. Apple.
Hey, Doc.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for participating in our World Cafe. The first step to our strategic planning and seeing how we can do things new and different while also maintaining our roots and bringing great speakers, like Judge Ashley.
Right. Are you scribing?
I'm scribing. I can't sit down. I'm always on the road.
You
so
can't read my penmanship.
There's that. So we want your feedback. I know that we've got many familiar faces in this room and you've attended many a task force meeting in the past. And so you know what we're about and what we do. But so we want to ask you to start with two very simple questions. What do you think is going well in the task force? What have you liked about it? What kind of issues, speakers, topics did you like to see covered in the past? And then after we discuss that, we'll talk about what would you like to see differently? Are there new topics that have arisen post-COVID or just as our society emerges? Are there new topics that we should be addressing and advocating for in addition to talking? Okay. All right. So that was not, those were not rhetorical questions. They were, they actually require answers. On the microphone. But so you like something about the task force, right? There's something.
There you go. There we go.
It takes one to break the ice. Sorry, that's a bit of a reach.
Okay, I can take the easy one, I think, of what I really like about the task force is all the great speakers that are brought in, obviously, with the chief judge. I think that was an excellent speech, and we've also had other great speakers in the past in connection to resources in the community that are doing great work that I hadn't heard about. So I think that's a huge highlight of the task force.
So I'll echo that, working for an Irish consultant agency. Knowing those resources in the community are so helpful. We share them with people, we share them with our staff. I work for LSS and I share them with other business units. It's not just my business unit, but it's going to benefit everybody in the community. So just knowing those resources is so helpful.
Hearing from the elected officials and holding them accountable.
It's similar when issues come up that affect the community, that the task force tries to take a stance on things and mobilize people to advocate or change legislation or change what's happening. I think there's power in the task force. I think I agree. They've always had good speakers. These rooms used to be packed A through C in the day, with speakers who would bring topics. We haven't gotten to the question, Christine, about what could we do different yet? Should we hold off?
Yeah, I guess, for the guest speaker.
What we're doing well. I can.
This is my first meeting, so I can't say too much, but I can say it just felt very welcomed. And so I think that's helpful for the community, the welcoming, just warmness of being here.
What we do well? Is that where we are? I'm sorry, I was talking to the judge out there. Yeah, the judge.
Well.
What do we do well? I think having representatives from many of the agencies involved with people with mental illness, so that we can network, but also when we want to take a position on something, we can speak on behalf of recognized stakeholders and have some clout and recognition. So I think that combined sense of shared mission and collaboration on identifying issues and taking positions has been something we've done pretty well.
I guess it's on me. I would say gathering the stakeholders, the boots on the ground, the people who are actually doing the work and the decision makers, and said, hey, every month we're going to come together to make the city, this county, this state a better place, and making sure that they're reputable and then making sure that they have the ability to truly create change while giving them the evidence-based research and the facts.
So, what I would say about it, and I, was at the task force when it first began, so I've kind of watched it grow. Is that I think it's really also an education for people who come to the meetings on a regular basis. Because I don't really think anyone is positioned in such a way, except for possibly Barbara Becker, to understand all the places that this complicated area of our world, exists. So there are people who are benefits specialists who understand the nuances of federal, state, and county funding. That's something I can say, coming to the task force, I knew relatively little about it. It has a huge impact on the services we need for our clients, but I didn't have the mastery of it. There is a lot of discussion about mental illness, but we also have focused on long-term disability, which can be tied to mental illness, but can involve other things. Well, the funding streams and the systems that protect somebody in a mental health crisis, Chapter 51, are different than the programs that exist to protect people with long-term disability. And understanding that those are totally different systems, they're operated by different people. Those legal criteria are different. What has to happen in court can be different for people on those different. That's something you don't know about. Then there's housing, which we know is a huge issue. So housing becomes something that you feel like you need to understand more about if you want to try to address these issues. We, as a task force, have in our earlier days, Sam Cochran, who was one of the early originators of CIT policing, because we felt, hey, the police really need to do better in the encounters they have in the community with people with mental illness. Well, policing is a very complicated thing, and what the police are entitled to do and what they actually do and what they could be doing, that takes a lot of policing knowledge. And so if you start making a list of all these topics that are important to understand if you want to get to where Judge Ashley challenged us to go, which is to do something better, you really need to be well educated on these things. And actually, to be more precise about it, you need to be working together with the people who know benefits and who know housing and know criminal justice and know policing, and they need to all be brought together so that they can share the different kinds of expertise that they have, because no one piece of this can solve this kind of problem. So I think the task force is, really the only place I know of in Milwaukee where if you consistently attend, you can actually hear enough about those different areas to begin to think about how they could work together more effectively. And partly they work more effectively together because once a month, before the pandemic, whoever said this, all three of these rooms are full of people. And you see all these side conversations going on before the meetings and after, because people were awakened to the possibility, hey, if I talk to this person, at Maida House, they could help one of my clients, and then Maida House needs some support from the county, and there's somebody from the county, right? I mean, that's kind of the strength of it. So I went on, but I apologize. But I think that's what it has been able to achieve.
Thanks for letting me be in the room. There's a lot of institutional knowledge and newer folks who are in the room, and that's also good. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the mix of the knowledge, the expertise, and quite frankly, the commitment. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and you're willing to keep doing this. That means you want to see better outcomes. So I'm just happy to be in the room, and I'm going to soak up what Tom said. I need to draw some of this out of this group to help us. So I'm a little bit, I'm just trying to take a little bit away with me. That's what I'm saying.
So I've known about the mental health task force for many years, and I remember when we'd have these rooms spread wide when I was of the days of St. Charles, Santa Maria Lakeside, Lincoln Hills, Wales, all of the above. So I've been around since days of wraparound, OIC, all the above. So I'm aging myself, I'm 25. But with that being said, I just love that you keep evolving. And as mental wellness specialists, and those who want to know more, just making sure that we continue to reach out in different avenues, different pieces of Wisconsin, making sure that we tap into different brains, different resources. Mental health doesn't always come from the practitioner. It doesn't always come from the clinician. It comes from families. It comes from the young woman who talked about Latinx women in prison. It comes from judges. It comes from people who are in recovery. People are in the midst of recovery. It comes from NAMI. It comes from IT specialists. It comes from all of the above. So just to welcome everybody with open arms who does have a thought and an opinion. And then also speakers like me who are like, what, you asked me to come and speak? Thank you so much. It really does our hearts good to know that you think that we have something important to say. So thank you so much for that.
I'd like to add a comment that when Act 203 was written in 2013, and Act 203 was the precursor to the law that developed the Milwaukee County Mental Health Board, and the Milwaukee County Mental Health Board took over the responsibilities around mental health and substance use, and all the budgetary responsibilities from the County Board of Supervisors in 2014. And the Milwaukee Mental Health Task Force has an ex officio seat on the Mental Health Board. So this body, which was founded in 2004, had and has a very, very strong reputation of being an organized body with strong knowledge on it, that the legislator said this body will have a seat on the Mental Health Board as an ex officio seat and represent the community. And so from that standpoint, this is a strong body of knowledge that will represent the community, and that ex officio seat is represented by one of the co-chairs on the Milwaukee County Mental Health Board.
Thank you, Mary, for being that person.
I'll add real quick. I think it reduce, as you mentioned, Judge, we reduce bias, because when we get to know one another, it's not like you're the DOC or you're the court system. It's like, no, we're people and we're all in this together and we're all sharing in the care of people. And it reduces that us versus them stigma, I think, that happens when groups get together. And then just the task force, I think by design, back the people who started it, it seems like you have broad state level and national level education on certain topics, and then you drill down into what's happening in Milwaukee. And I've always appreciated that aperture of the lens going wide and narrow. It really gives you a full understanding. Okay, and so we got to go to the cons. Christine, would you like to start with the cons? You would start.
I don't know if it's a con. I think it's more of talking about where we should go, right? So I agree that the meetings and the informal connections that happen before and after we can get these going in person again are very valuable. I think I'd like to see the task force, though, when they do their strategic plan, to start thinking about taking on a few major things, like let's make sure we emphasize this, because this is what we think is key for this community and mental health. And if I had to decide what that was, because if I had to decide, I would say it's housing. Everybody keeps talking about housing. If you don't have somebody safe, supportively housed, how can they take their mental health medications? How can they work on their recovery? How can they do all those things? And I would like to see the task force along with all the other work that other organizations and task force are doing, is really Milwaukee has very not supportive housing for people in mental health and recovery, but just bad housing for most people who are impoverished. So I just think that housing is a big issue for this community.
Here.
Yay.
Here, here. In 1972, in the court of Mills versus Board of Education in DC, we found that students with disabilities were being excluded from educational opportunities for issues related to behavior. As a retired educator, 13 years strong, one of the first commitments I had when I went from the college level over to high school was making sure that all teachers understood that positive behavior incentive solutions was the way. Now that I'm working with court ordered youth, I talk to judges and I say positive behavior incentive solutions are the way. We have to get good at incentivizing change. We're good at pointing the finger. We're good at roasting the bar, but we have to incentivize and say, listen, here's a more excellent way. Here's our evidence-based research. Here are your options. And I feel like a lot of times we've lost the way of 1963, 68, 72, where we have to become boisterous and say, look, by any means necessary, this what has to happen. And so when I come to the task force, one of the things I said in the other room, I have the privilege of bouncing back and forth, was that I see the task force as the Justice League. I see the task force as the Avengers, because we have all these arrays of superpowers. And some of you guys are too young to remember Captain Planet. But with our powers combined, we can save this world. And so when we say we, the task force, who is that? And what does our muscle look like? And are we working out our muscles in 2024, 25, 29, and giving the same energy from 1972 to say, hey, we have great resources in this room. Look at Tom. Y'all give it up for Tom. He's a lawyer. Montreal can have that young fire and say whatever he wants, and Tom can get us back to the book and say, hey, actually, this is a more excellent way to move and we come together. But are we tackling those subjects like you mentioned, and then utilizing our resources and putting the muscle behind it? Right now we have some amazing cookies. I don't know who bought them, but somebody said we should have cookies, and now they're here. Let's keep it simple. Let's get back to the sandbox, not get so, fired up in the rhetorics of I'm affiliated with this company, or I'm affiliated with that company, or I feel like I can say this. Find somebody that is willing to take a risk and understand that as the task force, we need to apply that pressure, because every single superhero movie we've ever seen, we've never rooted for the bad guys to lose. Right now we're losing.
Just want to say we're getting close to the time. Let me know when you want me to bring it up.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to piggyback on what Montreal said. In my time coming to the meetings the last 4 or 5 years, I don't see a lot of emphasis placed on youth. Why are we not starting the process when they're young to avoid the problems when they're older? I mean, I did this with my son, his developmental disability. We made sure he got a high school diploma, right? From the time he entered the school system, we worked to get him a diploma instead of a certificate of attendance. Because what's the first thing people need to get a job? A high school diploma. Why are we not putting the resources when they're young to keep them out of the system when they're older?
A focus on coexisting conditions, people with autism, people with developmental disabilities also have mental health, and it needs to be approached a little differently. And I think that could be an area. Just saying.
I would like to start by saying a focus on diversity and inclusiveness. People of color tend to represent a huge number of those that are either not diagnosed properly with mental health issues, mental illnesses. They tend to be the ones that are locked up at a higher rate, imprisoned, whether it be male, female, youth within our prison and jail system. And there is a huge stigma, of course, across the board And we all know this across the board, race, color, creed, sexual orientation, married, not married, socioeconomic. However, when it comes to people of color, it is a very high rate. And it seems to be more penalized in that vein. And so just to see more people of color in this room to talk about it, to represent, to bring in those resources, so that we can see those faces in this room, so that way when this room becomes filled, there's a lot more of that representation here, so that we can talk about those stigmas instead of just reading that research. There's a lot less research about that as well. So maybe we can start to think about how can we bring that into this room to talk about it, so that we can spread it throughout Southeast Wisconsin, entire Wisconsin, and so on and so forth. There's only 4% African American clinicians, only 2% Asian, only 4 to 5% Latinx, 1% mixed, and there's no count for LGBTIA plus clinicians in Milwaukee, United States, and in the world. So we need to really talk about that, and it needs to be represented in this room so we can be better informed and to advocate for that research.
So guys, just for the sake of time, because you are in for an amazing treat, for these next two questions, we're going to ask you to limit your responses for 5 seconds. That's 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. All right, 5 seconds, popcorn style. We're going to get 2 microphones going around because your input is extremely important, but we do want to be timely, so you guys come back next month. Is that all right? All right. Next question.
Okay. Mental Health Task Force is dedicated to engaging community. What community populations do you view as benefiting from further outreach?
Yeah. I think Doctor said it already. I was talking to her and Ashley earlier about that same thing that she talked about less representation for the ones who need the service the most. I think she wrapped it up in her little statement before. So I think I just think that what needs to happen, if I look at Tom that you talk about, and I look at all of these older people, what are you gonna do when they're gone and you don't have a task force for the next generation? I just think that, and our downfall is we always have, it was full years ago and it was full. And I see that the task force are trying to go like to the senior citizen at Washington Park, but not at the senior citizen at Clinton Rose, not at the senior citizen at McGovern. And so, hoping that people that look like me will come to Washington Park, but it has to be, we have to reach the community holistically, and I just feel like it's not there.
Thank you, Queen Mother. For this next and last phase, popcorn style, get your answers ready. We're going to pass 2 mics around. What areas of concern do you have that you want the mental health task force to consider? Did we do that one already? All right, here we go. I see you.
Housing, I said it.
Housing.
One thing I'll say real quickly is we used to have a segment where there would be one person of the task force who would get up and introduce themselves and their agency at our meetings. We should get back to that because that's really how we got to know each other.
I love that, Dr. Apple. What else do we got, y'all? What do you want to see the task force take on top?
We have a lot of work to do to educate our community about stigma. And because people who have struggles with these things need to be understood and not stigmatized. And the second thing is we need to stay focused on trauma, which is part of mental illness, but is also part of the problems that I think make it so difficult for people with mental illness to survive. So stigma and trauma.
Thank you. For sure, alternatives to incarceration.
I think ensuring people have access to resources when you're in a long-term care program like Iris or Family Care. Oftentimes we do not have the resources available for people with mental health. We're sending people to Ozaukee County, we're sending people to Washington County to get those resources, and they need to be here in their communities. Milwaukee County's investing a lot of time and money in building these facilities where the population is, but we need to get the help and the people there to help them.
The greatest thing for anyone of, this task force, the greatest thing is testimony from the people who suffer from those, illness. And I think, when you're talking to the elected officials or these people who are running these here programs, most of them don't look like us, but running these programs and stuff, I just think that you testimonies from the ones who suffer. I don't like to use the word mental illness, but suffer from mental illness, I just think that there should be a lot of testimonies, especially to the elected officials and the ones who holds the resources that you're trying to accumulate.
That's life.
Just really quickly, kind of tagging on to what was said earlier about stigma and connecting that to surrounding communities. I think there's a stigma of that this issue is just in Milwaukee proper, and it's not. It's everywhere. And I think part of why people don't talk about it, whether they're dealing with it or know someone who has who's facing it, is because of that stigma. But I think making sure that the surrounding communities know that this is a welcome and safe space to be able to talk about it, but to engage in it, but not just highlighting and thinking that it's just a Milwaukee issue. This is an American issue. And once we identify this as a people issue in it, then I think it's going to be more open to that. And then the second thing is just making sure that whenever we're talking about certain populations, that those populations are in the room to be able to advocate for themselves, particularly young people, and having young people in this space, and that would they're welcome to be able to provide their ideas, provide suggestions, and be at the table to be able to make recommendations.
So tell them who you are.
Queen Mother says I have to tell who I am.
Yes.
I'm Tiffany Henry. I serve as. It's fine. It's fine.
It's gonna tell you who she are.
It's fine.
Who she is.
Tiffany Henry. I serve as Milwaukee Director for the U.S. Senators.
Oh, thank you.
Give it up, y'all. Give it up.
Also, somebody else in the room that I invited. Okay, go ahead. Tell them who you are.
Queen Mother says I have to tell you who I am. I'm State Representative Supreme Moore Makunde, representing the 17th Assembly District.
Thank you, Judge. All three of you. Okay, so what's gonna happen is we post it on the wall. I'm gonna be all collated, and the information will be posted on the task force website, so that gets fed back to everybody. And before we go to Dr. Knox, I'd like to do a presentation. I met Sue Gavich many years ago when she was working for the state, and I can't even recall how many years ago that was. 23. So it's been a while. Sue has been a amazing contributor to the Milwaukee Mental Health Task Force for many years, and then came on to the steering committee in 2016, approximately. And Sue is stepping down from the steering committee because her employment is taking her in different directions and will not allow her to be available to the time that we meet for the steering committee. Sue has been an amazing resource. She has been one of our policy people that has been a stronghold on the committee. Sue has been is a person in long-term recovery. She's assisted in doing a lot of writing and garnering some really heavy hitter speakers for the Karen Avery Forum, and just a totally dedicated individual to the mental health task force, and has taught me a lot over the years, being on committees with her at the state level, in the various positions she's had in the community and the mental health task force. And Sue, if you could come up here, please. Hold this, I can't say everything at once. You have an award, met Sue today. And I don't have my glasses on, so you have to. Read it.
Says Susan Goddard, steering committee member, fearless leader, exquisite knowledge, and long-term recovery. That's beautiful. Thank you.
There, it's got the index inside of it and it's intertwined in there. And that is just the representation of all the things that are presented on the plate that represent Sue and everything that she is and stands for, because she is a woman of who she says she is and does what she says she's going to do.
Thank you very much. I know we're really short on time. I couldn't be a steering committee member, in name only, but I'll still be sticking around on this task force and help out as much as I possibly can. So thank you, Christine.
Can I just add 2 things? She's intimidatingly smart about so many things and the best sense of humor. I think I did that most. Oh, yeah, I didn't want to go in front of her.
Thank you.
You just learned how to pronounce your last name and now she's. Okay, since we're on a tight timeline, we will go to Dr. Knox. We're so excited to have you here today. Without further ado, you can read more about your bio in our meeting materials, but Dr. Knox is here, is a mental wellness expert, founder and CEO of Knox Behavioral Health Solutions, and she will be speaking to us about the holidays. What a better thing to end our year on. Thank you so much, Dr. Knox.
Thank you, everyone. Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you for sticking around a bit. So we will start with the first slide because I know I only have about 20.
The whole time.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes for questions and I have the whole time says, the boss here, so I'm gonna keep it going. So today we are going to talk about the holidays and how to manage stress during these holidays. Many times we're so excited about the holidays, everybody around us is like, yes, there's Christmas music playing in August and Hobby Lobby during my birthday, which is very, very disappointing for me. But many people are like, yes, fa la la la, Sam Cooke is playing, all the things are going well. And then there are people who really have a difficult time during the holidays. So raise your hands if you are super excited about the holidays right now. All right, so there are other counterparts who are having kind of a difficult and stressful time. Raise your hands also if it's kind of stressful right now. All right, so I'm in the right room. Next slide, please. So I want to give you some facts, because facts are very, very important when it comes to holidays. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna just move around a bit because me and podiums, I'm only 5'2" with heels off. So I like to move around. So 3 in 5 people fear their mental health is negatively impacted by the holidays. And I know that people don't really realize that, because when we see somebody during Thanksgiving, Christmas, what do we say? Happy holidays! And we're smiling and everything's wonderful. And they're like, thanks, happy holidays to you too. Sometimes you have 56% that wish the holidays were canceled due to the stressful time of the season. 64% have an increase in their mental health during the holiday season. Did you know that people who may be diagnosed with bipolar disorder tend to have rapid cycling during this time of the year? Some people have bouts of depression that are so low that they cannot get out of bed. Some people have anxiety that is so high that they tend to be in this state of worrying. How am I gonna get money for shopping? What am I gonna do for the kids? How am I gonna get ready for company? What about those plates that go with the cups, that go with the napkins, that go with the rings? What about that wreath I saw? I can't find it at TJ Maxx. And what my mom said is, well, if you don't see it, it's not there anymore. 60% report an increase in anxiety and 52% feel an increase in depression, while 70% feel more financial stress. How many of you have heard from clients or within your family that Christmas is coming and it is my most financial stress time of the year? Raise your hand. 66 reported feeling so lonely during those times, even in a room filled with people. Next slide, please. With that being said, there's also something else going on in people's lives. How many of you have jobs, careers, or even households that you experience end of year stress? Raise hands. Those of us who work in accounting, numbers, those of us who have to do the dreaded documentation for our clients and cases, because we save up all that vacation time, not on purpose, because we work so hard. So we have 3.5 weeks left. So by, I don't know, December 8th, we have to get all that paperwork in, so we won't have to do it when? During the holiday season. So there is a such thing called end of year stress. With end of year stress, 84% of workplaces report this period is the most stressful time of year. You have to get your budgets out, time to complete goals for the next year. Days become shorter and colder. Several major holidays come about, and then there are 2 to 3 weeks off from school for our children of the corn. They're also very happy and they're ready to go, and they're like, yes, school is out. And moms and dads and adoptive parents and foster parents are like, school is out. And they all want to run away from home, but do you know you're right there opening the door like, come on in for cookies and hot cocoa, and everyone's ready. Look at that face right there. Ready, get set, go. And so end of year is so happy for the children, they're ready. And as parents, are you? Yes or no? All right, let's say it rounding. No. What about for our cool aunties and uncles? Are we ready? No. Next slide, please. So with all that being said, I have some tips for you to manage your end of year stress. First, manage your mindset. We have to have a different perspective, because guess what? Guess how many times the end of year comes? Every single year of our lives. I know you didn't know it, but I'm telling you now, it comes every single year. Holiday season comes when? Every single year of our lives. So first we have to manage our mindset. All right, it's January. The end of the year is coming in like 11 months and like 30 days. What am I gonna do? First, we can come up with all different types of things. The end of the year and holidays can be a gleeful time, or it can be a chill time. You know what? I know it's coming. I'm not doing this. Nope, not this year, not even the next year. I'm coming up with something new. I can Google some things. I can look at what different countries do. I can look at what my friend does. My friend just says, no, not me. And they just go away. Why can't I do that? I used to be judgy girl. I used to judge like, I can't believe they're doing this with their kids. They're not even gonna give gifts or anything. And guess what? The kids live and they're happy and they grow and grow like flowers, and everyone is okay. Next, 2, ease expectations of yourself and others. Why all of these huge expectations? Sometimes we think about this because of our family of origin, right? That China that comes out, Big Mama who has everyone at the house, Auntie who's just as grouchy as ever, Grandpa that goes sledding and he's broken 3 legs, 6 bones, 17 collarbones. He's all baldy now, which is very attractive still, but he can barely walk, all because he has to take the grandkids and the great-grandkids and the great-grandkids skiing, in which he doesn't even like anymore. You set these high expectations of yourself and others. How many of you have an Amazon Christmas list from any child or person in your life? Raise your hand. Put it down. Why would you even have this? It's not even necessary if you don't want it to be. Why do you have these expectations of yourself? Because you did that. No one else did. Oh, so see, here's one that says, I didn't have that expectation. You can easily say if you want to, but not so easy. And we'll talk about the word no. It is a complete sentence. So there are other expectations that you may have of others. I cannot believe that they're not even doing this. They're not making turkey or ham or anything. They're having a lasagna Christmas. What? I can't even go to their house. I'm running to their house because guess what? I don't have to do. What? Let's say it again. 1, 2, 3. All right. Number 3, pump up the fun. Do something that you love to do. I love to dance. I will scream it to the mountaintops. The only thing I've done that I'm like, what, that happened? I love to step. I just learned how. So on Christmas Eve, even though I'm supposed to be helping with all kinds of stuff, my mom was like, you coming? And I don't answer. I'm just like, all right, Mom, I'll see you later. I'm going dancing. I'm gonna have such a good time for 2 hours. And then I'm gonna take a bath. And then I might just figure out something to do, but I'm gonna have some fun. Sometimes I love to go sledding with the kids because it's just fun. So I get on the sleds with them and I make them carry me on the sled up the hill. I don't care how heavy I am. They're like 15 or 16 now. They're bigger than me. Sometimes you can go for fun. I love to go window shopping and I don't buy a thing. Like, ooh, remember when we were little? That's my car. That's my house. That's my such and such. Just dreaming about what I want. Other times, give me some things that you do for fun. Shout it out. Oh my goodness. Talent contest.
It's the non-talent talent show. That's what we call it.
I promise I would win hands down. Yes, the non-talent talent contest. What other things do you do for fun?
Dominoes.
Dominoes. That would cost more in my house, but I'm so glad that it works at yours. Yes, tables have been broken. Have some fun. Pump up the fun during this time. You can play dominoes at work, at lunchtime, anywhere, in the car. Just do something that is fun for yourself during this stressful time of year. Enjoy the wait. Christmas time is coming, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. It has been so much fun for me to just decorate candles for Kwanzaa. Learn how to spell the words and where it's from. Talk to people and ancestors and prayers. All these things, just enjoy the wait of the things that you love to do. People that you haven't seen in a while, give them a call, send them a note. I remember doing COVID, I would do drive-by drink buys. If someone wasn't drinking alcohol, I would just take the sparkling. Beep, beep, what are you doing here? Come outside, put a chair outside. I got the wine glasses right there. They're like, what are you doing? It's Christmas, can't spend it together. Hey, let's wait till we can. Cheers, I'm out the sunroof in my car, they're out of theirs, we're having a good time. And there I go away. It's okay to do something different from what you normally do to have fun. Next, make time for self-care. Even if you're just sitting around looking at dogs and cats and birds, they're the silliest little 4 and 2-legged things you ever want to see. Have you ever just watched your kids just do what they do? It's pretty fun. Sometimes it's annoying and you can just leave them where they are. Other times, you can just do things that are caring for you. Take a bath, take a shower, get some lilac and lavender and just rub it on here and smell. Wash your hair. Have someone rub your feet. That someone could be you. Stretch out on the floor. Do some yoga. Everything is on TV now where you can do it yourself. Sometimes we're like, well, so-and-so won't do that for me. Do it yourself. Nice. You can do all these things for self-care if you would like. How many people have these gifts that you've gotten in the past and you want to give them away to someone else? Raise your hands. You can either re-gift them or now you can use them because most of them are self-care, right? How many Pamper Feet gifts do I have? Now I gotta use them. Next. Another thing also is when people ask you what you want for Christmas, ask for services. That's all I do now. What do you want for Christmas? I used to be like, nothing. Now I'm like, a spa day would be good. Massage would be nice. Petty man would be good. Also, sources of holiday stress. Shopping for gifts is one. Who says we have to shop for gifts? You can make a gift. You can make a beautiful card and a poem. Do you know how many tears I've shed because someone wrote me something in the card that was so beautiful? I didn't even see what was in the gift. Gift card, money. I didn't even know what was in there. The card itself was so beautiful. Managing children's excitement. Amazon list. All of these things. But there are certain things you can do. Once again, events, activities. We're gonna go here, we're gonna go do this. There are the lights that are going on at the zoo. There's also Candy Cane Lane. There's the King Tut exhibit down at the Baird Center. There is a whole list. It's called Free Things to Do in Milwaukee. And then you can put in the card, this is what we're doing. This is a gift from you. Yes, kids have tantrums. They will fall out. I've not heard of one kid passing away because they fell out and they had a tantrum. Just make sure it's cotton filled on the floor. Everybody will be all right. Next, navigating difficult family dynamics. So when that in-law comes by, the girlfriend or boyfriend of a son or daughter, that uncle or sister or brother who comes on by, it can be very stressful. How many of you have someone or something in your family where you're dreading it right now? Raise of hands. Okay, so let's have a different perspective. Number one, okay, they're coming by. Why does it have to be the same every year? The only person that has to be different this year is who? Let's look at it different. Let's be different. That person may be the same every year. Is that person the same every year? You're the only one that has to be different. And we can talk about that another time. Managing mental health and or addiction issues. If you feel that it is a stressful situation and you are not doing well, it is for you to set your boundaries and limits. If that person is coming by or the situation is too stressful, or if you have these expectations of yourself and others, you have to step back. You have to do it differently. It's okay to have a normal day on that day. Family conflict and holiday expectations, talked about that. And managing end of year work expectations. We also spoke about that. Next slide, please. Now, let's talk about holiday tips that we're going to need to do to make sure that we manage our stress. And these are specific. So many of us have lost people throughout our year. Many years ago, recently, or what have you, I've had friends that have lost their parents, siblings, pets, jobs, homes. And it hurts my heart to even see that they've lost somebody. Make space for messy feelings like grief. It's okay if you don't want to celebrate on that time. It's okay if you have a hard time even thinking about it. If your person is not here with you and you want to cry, you want to scream out and yell, you want to be grouchy that day, do not let anyone take that away from you. Be that. Be that. Allow yourself space. And if you are a friend or a family member for that person, you hold space for that person. I know many people say, well, I'm not here for that this season. I'm trying to be happy. Okay, you set your own boundary and you go away. But you don't bring that to that person that's grieving at that specific time. Hold space if you're there for that person. If the person wants to cry, be angry, be mad, be upset, talk about that person, allow them to do so. If you want to assist that person in celebrating that person, then do so. But please allow yourself to have that time and space for the person that you're yearning for or missing. Make space. I don't care how ugly it looks. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. So this is my favorite. So does anyone know how the Quaker Oatman looks on the oatmeal box? Everybody knows how he looks, right? Quaker. He looks like Quaker, right? So he looks kind of like this. So anytime someone's like, you know what? I really hope that you cook that turkey and that good potato salad, macaroni and cheese. And also, if you can make that apple pie and don't forget about the sweet potato pie. No. Make sure, keep in mind, the Quaker Oats man. One word. No. Now, let's try it together. Hey, do you think you can make the sweet potato pie? Go pick up grandma on the other side of town. And don't forget to put the marshmallows and the raisins inside of the potato salad when you do. 1, 2, 3. No. See how it's not fully a smile, yet a smize, but still calm and not dirty or yelling? Quaker Oats man. So, 1, 2, 3. No. I don't care what it is. Do you have $1 I can borrow because I'm $1 off of my kid's gift? No. I don't care what it is. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. And afterwards, I don't want to hear you say, I'm sorry. Or even before, I'm sorry, but no, I can't. No excuses. No. Right there. Next, create your own holiday traditions. So this is what I'm working through now. Sometimes if we have new partners, or if we want to do something new, or if our family is just like overwhelming, or friends want to have Friendsgiving, and then they want to have other things going on, you can have other traditions. I remember one year I was just like, yeah, I don't wanna. And I am the most celebratory person in the world. I get geeked. It's like, woo, celebration. But I'm like, I'm tired and I've been working so hard. I just want to really sit down, watch all the episodes of Unsung on BET that I've never seen before, which were all of them. And then in the morning, watch all the Law and Order. So that's what I did. And it was New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. I had a blast. People were calling and everything. I didn't even answer the phone. It became my tradition for New Year's Eve and New Year's morning. 3 years straight. I created my own tradition. I had wine, it was great. I had cheese, I had meat, it was great. It's okay to create your own holiday traditions. Does anyone have their own that is not traditional? What's yours?
Chinese food Christmas Eve.
There we go. Awesome. What kind?
Oh, always from Panda Gourmet because it's a family-run place and they're one.
Good for you. Anyone else have another tradition? Oh,
Just like scream out what food they want to eat.
Uh-huh.
And so it is just a hodgepodge. All of this we won't make the absolute best. Or we're catering. We're not making.
Smorgasbord of non-made homemade food. Perfect. Homemade by someone else. Yes.
You know, when you were saying about, when people say to you, are you gonna make pie? You gonna do this? No.
Mm-hmm.
Say, why don't you make it?
That's even better. And then see what they say. And use it like, well, I can, and you make it the best. And then
store and buy one.
There we go. And then just for good measure, no.
No.
Keep your stress levels in check. It's okay to step back or delegate. Just like you said, why don't you make it? Set realistic expectations for yourself and the holiday. Please don't overdo it. I still think, and I know it's from old school and probably from new school, my family will take 2 weeks to get something ready. It takes my mom and grandmama 4 days to do the dressing. Whew, I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy it and I eat soup while they're doing it and all that, but you know, I probably won't be carrying that on. Make a plan and try to stick to it. Organization is the key. Keep your self-care routine or begin a new one and give yourself permission to let it be a normal day. It's okay to keep your days the same. Get up at the same time. If you go exercise, do that. Eat a little snack beforehand so you won't overeat. Make sure that you go to bed at the same time. Because during those holiday seasons, you will exhaust yourself and your health or your mental health or your recovery will lapse. And it won't be a pretty sight only because you wanted to celebrate a holiday for one day. Next slide, please. So All of these things, if you do not take care of yourself, you might miss something. And it's called seasonal affective disorder. Did you know that seasonal affective disorder is experienced by 1 out of 3 people? That is 10 million people from October to April. Often mistaken for holiday blues, like we talked about, feeling down, feeling depressed, but symptoms are most severe in December, January, and February. However, symptoms tend to resolve in spring and early summer, but for many, it doesn't let up until the summer. Symptoms can continue through spring and early summer, but some people even don't have it resolved until fall. Next slide. So here's some symptoms. I want you to pay close attention to this because you may be going through this right now. Once again, symptoms can be comorbid. Comorbid means that they look and seem and may be combined with other symptoms if you have another diagnosis. Lack of patience, irritability, feeling unproductive and unmotivated, not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to do much, feeling lazy, feeling sad and depressed, lethargic, difficulty concentrating, always feeling tired, and I mean always, not letting up. Sleep disturbances, I sleep too much, I sleep too less. I have trouble falling asleep, I have trouble staying asleep. Social withdrawal, I don't want to be around people I usually like to be around. I kind of stay to myself. I'm not really feeling this. I cancel out of activities. Weight gain and weight loss, either or. Feelings of hopelessness. I don't even see why this is going on. The holidays suck. Like, I just feel like I'm not good. I don't have the money. I'm never going to be what I want to be for my kids, for myself, for my career, so on and so forth. And these are feelings that don't come during summer or spring. Reduced sex drive, craving sugar and carbohydrates. I mean pasta, rice, cake, heaviness in the arms and legs, and feeling like a lump on a log and feeling extremely depressed as soon as it gets kind of dark outside or dreary. So that's around 3 or 4 or on our cloudy days. Next slide, please. So how do we combat this? Light therapy. From a Lux Light box lamp for 30 minutes a day. You can get these off of Amazon. You can get them off of Walmart, Target, and they absolutely do work. They can go as high as a standing lamp or they can go on your desk. How many of you have ever had a light lamp? Can you tell me if it works or not?
Yes.
Like a charm, it works. Daily walks or other exercise in the sunshine, and I'm not talking about just rays of sun, but on a day like this, when the clouds seem kind of dim, but there's just white clouds, it'll work. Just go outside for a walk. I don't care how cold it is. We're in Wisconsin. It's not a surprise. Consistent sleep, healthy diet. Consider interacting in a support group or psychotherapy. I'm a co-founder of Black Space. You can come talk with us. It's free. We have cooking therapy. We have art therapy. We have just come on in and talk with us. And we have a partnership with the Milwaukee Art Museum. So we make sure it's in beautiful and safe spaces. Always beautiful. So you'll have something to look at that's beautiful as well. Talking to your primary care provider about an antidepressant that you will not have to take year-round, because seasonal affective disorder is a chemical imbalance that is caused by cortisol that has increased, and you'll have to get rid of that. And so short-term antidepressant does help. Next slide, please. So quickly, 8 ways to survive the holidays and stay sober, which we rarely talk about. Number 1, set realistic limits. Staying in recovery is your number 1 priority. If people are drinking, smoking, all of these things, make sure you set your limits, stay away or limit exposure. Number 2, stick with the basics. Get plenty of rest, eat 3 balanced meals, and get some exercise. 3, stay connected. Go to your NA groups, go to your AA groups, go to your sex addiction groups, go to Gamblers Anonymous groups, go to where you need to go. 4, have an escape plan. Number 3, also stay with family and friends that are positive and stay in touch with them. Have an escape plan. Well, gotta go. Got my own car, got my own Uber, got a bus, got my 2 feet, and I'm walking up out of here. 5, create new ways to celebrate. We talked about that. Self-care. 7, meetings. I have a wonderful close relative, and my uncle, he does not mind me talking about it. He goes to meetings 2 times a day for the past 36 years. He even runs them. He is no joke about it. He is serious about his sobriety, and I love him for it. He is a shining example for me and others in our family. 8, do something nice for someone. On Christmas and Thanksgiving, they have dinners at the Bear Center. They have them all around the city. They have all kinds of things at homeless shelters. They have them at recovery houses. Please do something nice for someone else, because when you are giving of others, you don't have time to concentrate on yourself. Next. Finally, replenish and rejuvenate. Restore yourself during this holiday season. Be comforted. Be refreshed. Be well adjusted. It's about healing and wellness and health. Get balanced. Be flexible. Stress-free. And above all things, try your best to have a happy holiday in the way that you need to. Next. Here's some resources for you. Please take a picture and pass it along, because someone in your life, if not you, someone is going to need these, because the holidays are the most stressful time of year, but they can also be the most happy, and you could be a person who could be that helping hand to someone else. So thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions, please let me know, and thank you so much once again.
Much, Dr. Knox. Oh, that was fabulous. Yeah, we all feel so much better. You know what I do?
Since it is 5, thank you so much for coming to our meeting today. Oh.
What did you guys think about the meeting today? As we are preparing for the holiday season and entering into a new year, we just want to do a toast with you guys. Man. Wish you well, if that's all right. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Same.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My wife just texted me and my son's team. You get the W. So we are preparing a little sparkling cider. Just stay with us for a couple more moments, and thank you again for coming out.
That's for y'all. Yeah, I feel like I need. Oh, no. DC now. So I have trips, January. I thought it was first week of the month.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna reach the steering. Every month. Oh, I have to be there. I cannot not go. I didn't know that. Yes. Not bad. Cross, hope to still be able to.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
And I'm excited. Thank you.
We're like, oh my. I hear you take. At an Etsy stocking. Okay, he's still a puppy. Oh. There you'll. Or she's actually having a hip reduction. This is what he looks like.
Raise your hand if you need a sparkling cider.
No, Bridget.
Hand if you need a sparkling cider.
Cheers. Sorry.
All right, everyone. We won't keep you, we promise. We're gonna raise our glasses. And on the behalf of the Mental Health Task Force of Milwaukee, we want you to enjoy the least amount of expectations next year. To make sure you avoid those Christmas shopping lists and to make sure that you spend time with family. Thank you all so much. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Thank you.